We live. What's up, guys? Man, this is your boy Elder, man. With my guy Reginald, man. We here to talk a little bit about today's. We're going to talk a little bit about the mock draft. We're going to start our mock draft 1.0. We're going to go through a few picks. We're going to go through some things. We're going to share our thoughts about some players. So some things to you guys may seem a little redundant, man. It may seem like, oh man, we talked about it again. I try to get different guys on here with different perspectives, different feels for the game, different thoughts of it. We had a really dope last week with Reginald. We had some real good talk. Reginald and Nate and his brother came on. Man, I'm gonna chop that up. I really want to edit that footage because I think that was like really good content. Like,
that out.
yeah, and I want to actually get his permission before I put that out there. But that's really dope. But anyway, man, today we're gonna be here for the next about 30 minutes. And we're going to talk a little bit about the draft. If you guys want to put in your questions or your comments inside of the chat, you can put your questions and comments inside the chat, and I'll share some of those thoughts with the folks, and we'll chop it up a little bit, man. But today, man, we are talking Talkback Mock Draft 1.0. So this is our first time where we're just going to kind of go through the draft a little bit about guys we like, guys we don't like, some highs and some lows in this draft, man. There's some people who we really favor, some people who we question it. It's been I love talking DPC, man. I love this group. I love the variety of thoughts and just the different people and the different thoughts in this group, man. It's such dopeness. It's so funny that we've already, like, for no good reason, we've already drawn lines in the sand. It's like there's a Mobley group, there's a Cade group, there's a Green group, there's a Sud group. We already doing all this, and we don't even know what pick we getting yet. Like, we don't even know what pick we getting, and we already drawing lines in the sand about, nah, man, Cade, no, Suggs, no, Green, no, Mobley. It's like it's entertainment, man. I tell you guys, everything I do, man, for this group, man, is just about entertainment and having fun. It's about cutting up. I like pushing buttons. It's just all entertainment, man. But we got my guy Reginald, man, and like I said, guys, we have in our chat. If you guys want to put some content in the chat, we're gonna put some content in the chat. When I get this footage back, I'm gonna see can I chop it up, make it real dope for the YouTube, put some pictures and some videos in here. So Reginald is going to lead a lot of this. I'm going to really be leading. Reginald's going to lead a lot of this conversation. I am more so going to do, that means I agree or well, I don't agree. But he's going to run through his 1 through 7 picks. Like, he'll go through his top 7. Then we're going to come back and do a part 2 of this. And we're going to do like from 7 to 14. So we're going to do the first part of this content is going to be 1 through 7. And then the next time we get back together, man, we're going to do 7 through 14. So like I said, this is just chopping it up with a fellow Piston fan. I love calling these sessions Real Piston Fans, Real Talk. But now we're calling it Real Pistons Fans, Real Mock Draft 1.0. So Reginald, you are on a clock with the first pick in the draft. Who are you taking and why?
I got to take Cade Cunningham. Your
Okay.
consensus number 1. I did a deep dive on him last night, just trying to get a better feel for, if he was drafted by our team. And there's very few holes in his game, very few. He's going to be an adequate defender out the gate, so he has something to build upon. So I'm always, I love two-way players. That's always been my thing. So if a dude don't play defense, he falls in my drafts. So with his ability to handle the ball, to be a lead guard if need be, then he has the potential to play off guard because his ability to shoot the 3. Then on top of that, the run real hole that I see really has to deal with his mid range. Because I know a lot of people have been comparing him to Luka Doncic. But that's one area that Luka excels in. Luka's just not as good a 3-point shooter. So that's where they kind of swap out a bit. I think Luka's a better passer, but the gap is not that far in between the two of them. I like what Luka does with, he doesn't. It's not the greatest talent in the world, but he makes it work, and I think Cade kind of has that same ability as well. So that's why I would have to go with him number 1. He'd be a guy that has the potential to be a franchise changer, which is what we need.
Yeah, I think I won't change anything. So I'm just going to go back and just share my thoughts on guys you share and let you kind of run through. I'm just going to share my thoughts on them. Not necessarily where you position them at, but just my thoughts on the player. So what I like about Cade Cunningham is everything you said. I think he's such a well-rounded player. I don't think you get many well-rounded players. And I'm not saying he's the most physically talented. I'm not saying he's the most gifted we've ever seen, but I just think it's very hard to find really well-rounded players at 19 years old who can come in and get ready to impact the game that way. So I agree. His ball handling isn't like ridiculous. I don't think
crafty. It's a tight handle.
Yeah,
it's very difficult for you to stop him from going where he wants to go, and that's because it has to do with the size as well.
And that's the part I've already said. So it's not just that it's like actually I said it back a while ago, man. I said he's kind of Luka like. I'm not saying he's going to come into the league being like 30 points, 19 rebounds, and 17 assists. I'm not saying he's going to do that. I'm not saying he can't do that. But what I'm saying is he has that build, that big body, that space, can get people on his hip. And once he have you on his hip, it's like ball game because he's going to be able to do so much, whether he's going to be able to shoot it, pass it, draw contact, draw the foul. And I think a very underrated, no, he's not Jalen Green, freakish, bouncy, athletic, but he still will get to the rim and he can finish over top of you. And I just think that's an underseen skill he has.
And that's why I actually brought up the Paul Pierce comparison because I think a lot of people forget Paul Pierce was decently athletic when he first got in the league. He wasn't as good a three-point shooter, but it was something that he worked on.
Right.
He was really efficient, really good at getting to where he wanted to go. Like, it was hard to keep him from going to his spots. But then as he transitioned, as he got older, he started to really develop that in-between game. And his spin gather is like epic. I was watching the other night, I'm like, wow. But then I started looking at Cade's video. I'm like, man, that's a lot of the same similarities in that in-between game. He's not as good as knocking down the mid-range shot yet. But, with him being able to shoot the three, it's not far-fetched for him to be able to do that too. And so, I was looking at, somebody made the comparison to Ben Simmons. And I'm like, man, if Ben Simmons had a jumper, he would be looked at like how we look at Cade right now.
Yeah.
And
a little bit more bouncy, a little bit more athletic, but he's still in that same tier of
6'8", 6'8" to 6'10".
Yeah, lanky, long, got wingspan. Like I said, in today's era, you really need you don't need a guy like, I don't want to hype it up, but if you can get a guy like that and you get him in this era,
it shortens your curve.
Yeah,
your curve for what you need when you're building a team,
and especially if he transitions. So all our conversations about if these guys transition. So all right, so we got Cade number one. Who's your number two? Who's going?
This is an odd spot for me, because it's really between three people with me. It's between Jalen Green, Suggs, and Mobley. Okay. Now, I told you how I feel about two-way players. Also told you how I feel about big men in the NBA at this point in time. Like, the big men, are they great in this era? They're pretty good. You got Embiid, you got Jokic, you got players like that. But then you just have your Hardens, you got your Kyries, you got your you just got these awesome lead guards, lead wings, you know what I'm saying, that send to make the league go around. So I'm going to say Jalen Suggs.
Okay. So Jalen Suggs is your number two.
I'm not going to agree with that. That's fine. It is what it is. But my thing is, he's going to step into the league and he's going to have one dynamic skill automatically. He's going to be able to play defense.
Okay.
And that's going to allow him to stay on the court. It's also going to allow him to get time to develop those other aspects of the game where he has holes. Like, of course, he wants to develop a tighter handle. And of course, we want the three-point shot to develop as well. The great thing is he already has a really good form. There's nothing wrong with his form. It's just a matter of conversion. So I think it's just a matter of getting the reps in. But defensively, man, to me, he's the best on-ball defender in the top 10 6 or 7 players that we're talking about. He's that guy.
So let me ask you this question then. So I'm just throwing this curve in there. I think Cade is a consensus number 1. So I think when it comes to number 2, I just don't see any team who get the number 1 pick passing on Cade. Very short of maybe the Timberwolves. And I can even see the Timberwolves taking Cade and just like
figuring everything
and figuring it out and make one of them just like between that. Like I'm gonna give a shout out to my boy Chris Bassby. Like this is positionless basketball. So just saying like one of these guys, like either Cade or Anthony Edwards, slide to that small forward, strong wing position. So I just don't see anybody passing on Cade. Or if somebody they trade out, they'll trade up a pick and they'll trade somebody who will take them at first. But ideal situation for Suggs. When you think about the potential teams that could land like that, number 2, what would be the ideal situation you see for Suggs?
So I still think Orlando has not found their lead guard. I like Cole Anthony. I believe he brings a lot to the table, but he strikes me as somebody that I give the ball to number 1 off my bench. He strikes me as that kind of guy. With Jalen Suggs' size, with his defensive capabilities, and then he does have the ability to be, like, he has the potential to be an all-star type caliber player. I could see Orlando not passing him up. I could also see him going to OKC. And the only reason I say that is because Shy can actually move to the wing or off ball. I can even see him playing a little bit of small forward as well. He had to bulk up a little bit, but
no, man, he was Shagro.
He's been doing that.
Alexander has been like when he was playing with Chris Paul and he was like off ball. I mean, he was flourishing as a scorer. But I will say he came back into this year, and before his injury or before they shut him down for the season to probably tank, same way we was tanking. I think that he was showing like he could do everything. Like he was on ball, off ball. It was like,
and that's what I always liked about him.
Yeah.
Remember last year I had made the soft comparison to Halliburton and Shy because of their build, the fact that they have very versatile games. Like if you need me to play off ball, I'll play off ball. If you need me to play on the ball, I can do that as well. And they also are good defenders. Like they can defend multiple positions. So that's the reason why I can see him going to either one of those teams. I don't see Cleveland with them having.
Cleveland is guard heavy.
Yeah, they're
Cleveland
guard heavy. And then they got a Coral there too, so it's kind of they got a lot going.
Yeah, I think that if Cleveland had an ideal pick, honestly, I don't think Cleveland needs another young player. I don't. I don't think they need another young player. I think they need a guy who's a little bit established. But all right, that's cool. And my feeling about Jalen. Go ahead.
Well, I do see us as well.
Okay.
And the only reason I'm saying that is because you still need a little bit more time to see who Killian is. Where his strengths lie. I really want to see him go through a good off-season program. First, I want to see him get fully healthy. One thing that kept concerning me was he'll be going through the game, and the next thing you know, I see him hitting that hip, pounding his hip, and I'm like, that's not good, man. Like, I don't know if it was a psychological thing or if it actually was, hip pain, but I just want to see him get healthy.
Yeah, I think I'm 2 ways on. Like, I'll tackle the Killian thing later, but I definitely think that I would say my good on Suggs is that when I did my research on him. So once again, he's not my guy, but I'm not going to deny research. And when I look at stuff, I would say that what I love about him, I for college guys, when they start talking about intangibles, about leadership, I know it's a factor. Maturity, I know it's a factor. I'm not going to downgrade those things. But then I just watched everybody say how immature Anthony Edwards was, and he absolutely balled out. So I think there's always a balance in that. But I will say the thing I like about Suggs is better than I thought he was. His first step, I think his first step is very strong, and he has a really, really good hesitation. And I think his hesitation is pro-level hesitation, like stop and go. And I think he has that. And I think that's a real great factor. And another thing he does really well is transition basketball. Although the NBA is not, in my well, not in my opinion, just factual. NBA is more about 15-20% transition. Like you're only going to score about so many points in transition. It's still like when you can get easy points in transition, have a point guard who knows how to craft and finish. And I think he's that guy. He knows how to play really well, like fast in transition. And that's the counter to Killian, who does not play fast in transition. I'm not saying he doesn't have awareness, but he doesn't play fast. Like even when you see sometimes he gets the ball, he's walking the ball up. So, but we'll see. All right. So number 3, who you got?
I got Mobley.
Okay.
Once again, you know how I felt about two-way players.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him a couple of days ago. I was kind of doing a deep dive on him, and he's got a freaky game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I know we were saying here he's a center, but he's showing me some perimeter game. He's showing some post ups, some in between. His ball handling is really good. Like I didn't expect it to be as good as what I saw, but it's good. And the athleticism is, man, like it ain't much I can say about it. The boy got springs in his leg, so it would not strike me as weird if he went number 1, which is weird. Like I know that Cade is our consensus, but his potential is really boundless. I know we were kind of talking about the tenacity and all that other aspects, stuff like that. I know a lot of people have different viewpoints on that. And when I speak about tenacity, I more so think about a player's will to go through you. Yeah. Like I'm not going to allow you to stop me. I'm not going to allow you to, I'm going to keep working on my game as much as possible. Like, those people that just have a strong passion for basketball.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he doesn't have it because I really don't know the kid. He seems to be a bit quiet, which is fine. But I also remember Tim Duncan, bro. And I remember when people were like, man, Tim Duncan, he don't say nothing, this, that, and other. But I'm like, he ain't saying nothing because he's killing you. What is he? His game is talking. And
it's like, I think we're in this era of fandom.
Entertainment.
And it needs to be entertaining. I think Tim Duncan, and if we want to go back 20 years to Tim Duncan, okay, and I'm not saying these guys go number 1, but Al Horford, Chris Bosh, Karl Anthony Towns. And I know people say Karl Anthony Towns is soft, but I'm just using an example.
Karl Anthony Towns is a great player, dude.
Yeah, but people jumped on him because once Jimmy, and that's what we do in the NBA sometimes. Like once a superstar who has a lot of tenacity and a lot of energy and just chest pounding, once they call somebody soft, everybody just runs with it. And we've seen that happen here. We ain't gonna go down that road, but we've seen that happen here. We've seen like when Embiid called out Drummond because Embiid is the better player and he plays with more like and he says it. Everybody's like, "Yep, you're soft." So I think that's the same thing about Mobley. But I will say this: the one thing, and just piggybacking off you, is like I'm not saying he can't get stronger. That's the thing. Like he can get stronger. His frame says he can get stronger. He is not Bobo who has his body structure though. Like how he's going to gain 15 more pounds. Like the guy has already. He went from high school. In high school, he trained. I think it's at high school. He's like around about 200 some pounds. I think I read it like 200 pounds in high school to college during COVID when you don't have your full workout regimen to 215. And then I'm looking at him now. He looks like he's already about 220. And it's like, I just think his body can transition to be a solid 230 type guy. I don't think he's going to bulk up to like the 240, 245, 250, but I think he's a solid 230. But when we keep on saying today's modern NBA, today's modern big, the modern big is not in the post anymore, demanding the ball in the post. The modern big is out on the wing. They're playing high in the key. They're passing, they're scoring, they're getting their own shot, they're dribbling. So my flaw, so I can be fair about Mobley, I would say is that I read the article about him, and the one thing I think that popped up in the article about Mobley that it said was that he will, because he's a team player, he will defer to his teammates. So he may defer to a Jeremy Grant. He may defer to a Bay, but it's still that. But when you call a play for him, he's going to execute the play. And I think that sometimes that part of the game is what's going to help your team. That you have a guy that says, okay, Jeremy Grant's play. I'm going to run my screen. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get on the boards. But I think that's the key. Like,
but that's the thing too. Remember, Pistons fans, they crucified Luke Kennard for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what Luke Kennard was. Luke Kennard was a player that wanted to make the unselfish play. He was not playing to get his own shot,
right?
And it led to, the ire of the Pistons fans. But then he came into last season, absolutely shooting the ball,
right?
And what we tend to do is we tend to stick with the old narrative and not look at new evidence.
Yeah,
and that's what kind of that's those, that's a byproduct of being a fan.
Yeah. So we got Cade.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, these are original picks. We got Cade number 1. We got Suggs number 2. We got Mobley number 3. Right? Who we got number 4?
Jalen Green.
What we like about Jalen Green?
The boy can put buckets into he just make buckets. Of course, the explosion. He has explosive athleticism. I like how he always runs the floor. I always see him running the floor. There's not a as soon as the defensive rebound is sealed, my man is up the court.
Yeah.
So he's trying his best to create easy baskets for himself. But then he has the in-between game. So he can shoot the 3. He has a really good first step. And his hole is his defense. He's not the best defender on his team. Kuminga was the better defender. And he's one of those people, a lot of people making the comparison to Kobe. I said, look, we can't do that. Because the tenacity, that will to go through you was not just on the offensive side of the court. It was also on the defensive side of the court. We're talking about a multi-time all-defensive team player.
Yeah.
I don't see that out of Jalen Green. And that's why I kept making the comparison to Vince Carter. Vince Carter offensively was very gifted, explosive athletically, could shoot the 3, could give you everything you want offensively. He was not a willing defender. He never was. He didn't become a willing defender until later on in his career. And that's what I was talking about with Jalen Green. I want him to come and apply that same tenacity that he has offensively, defensively. And then sky's the limit. Sky's the limit already for him offensively. I see like a little bit of Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
But
I hear people saying Zach LaVine. I hear Bradley Beal. And I'm not saying no. I'm just so
Zach LaVine has a very advanced handle though.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between the two.
And I'm not and contrary to popular belief, I still have Green in my top 2-3. Like it can sway any day, top 2-3. But I think the thing that scares me about Green, and I did a post about this, is like these next ultra wing players, these ultra guards, these ultra guys. It's not the first time. I said a question. He's flashy, he's exciting, he's intriguing, he's the new iPhone. But then when you have the iPhone, you go, oh, what's so different about this iPhone than you have the iPhone 12? What's so different about the iPhone 12 than the iPhone 11? It has a new feature. It may have one new feature, like an eye recognition, but you didn't really need it. And I just think about Jalen Green, like he's good. And this is not about him not being good, but what's the difference between that sets him apart from? And I'm gonna say this, and people are not gonna like this comparison. I'm gonna let you.
I see it coming. I feel it.
But like a J.R. Smith. Like J.R. Smith was stupid athletic.
Sleep on how good J.R. was when he first got
early. Denver. J.R. Smith, yes, J.R. Smith.
Denver J.R. was,
and he came out of high school. He was like 19. He was like ridiculous on fast breaks. He was ridiculous pulling up, And I'm not saying that Jalen Green is not more talented, but I'm just saying it's like that. But you need the right nurturing,
he has to go to the right team.
Like you put Jalen Green on. Okay, let me do this. Put Jalen Green on Minnesota last year, like, you know what I'm saying, 19-year-old Jalen Green, not 18-year-old Jalen Green, 19-year-old Jalen Green on Minnesota. But you put him on Minnesota last year and take away Anthony. I think he can do that. I think you could say we're tanking. Let the young player play 30, 35 minutes a game. Let him shoot up 20, 25 shots. Whether he's efficient or not, it don't matter. He's going to give us a show. He's giving the fans what he wants. He's going to put up numbers. And over the season, he may get better with his efficiency and what he's doing.
Which is what happened with Edwards.
And we seen what happened with Kevin Porter. And I'm not saying these guys are similar. I think Green is more talented than them. But you're like, let's give them high volume, high minutes. And it looks good on the stat sheet. But then when you look at your wins and losses.
So that's why it does matter what team he goes to.
Right.
And that's what a lot of players, man. Like I always told people, like with Zach LaVine, if he didn't go to Minnesota, but instead went to the Spurs, how much better of a player would he be?
Yeah.
And those are those things that we gotta look at. Like, you know, even with I hate doing it, but even with Drummond, he was on this team, he was on Cleveland. And then he goes to a championship team that's in flux. Like, you know, LeBron was hurt, AD was hurt. You know, he's still learning a new system and stuff like that.
Right. And had a toe injury.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you give them time to integrate. That's any team. Any team has to develop chemistry. Any player has to learn the system. That's the one way he has to go on the court, because it's different from the two teams that he was on in the span of a year. And so when a young player does that, it's the same concept. Like we were talking about Sekou not that long ago. He give you flashes. You see flashes of the talent that he does have. But then you come into this year, we had no offseason, nothing to really integrate with. And we started seeing flashes at the end of the season after he's gone through what he should have been going through in the G League. He went through that in the league. Yeah. And so I would have higher expectations for him after this offseason.
Yeah. So, like I said, I really like Green. I just want to be clear, because somebody may hear part of this and think I don't like Green. But I just said, my always question is, like, I would say, who's the last player we've seen like this? And that's how I compare a lot of guys. Like, who's the last time we've seen this type of player and what they do in this league? So I think Green has an incredible ceiling. I really do think. And it's long ball. You know, these guys are 19 years old. So we just named 4 19-year-olds. So we're not expecting them to come in and be ridiculous. But I think about Donovan Mitchell also, and we'll move on to your number 5 pick. But Donovan Mitchell, when he came to Utah, Donovan Mitchell was supposed to be a backup to, God, I can't think of the guard name who got hurt.
I believe it was.
It was either Exum. It was another guy, but he was, and I can't think of his name. It's going to come to me later. But he was supposed to, he's been playing for a while, but he was supposed to be the backup. Burke. Burke got hurt. And that's what forced Mitchell into the lineup, and they wasn't even expecting to win. But then Utah got hot, and Donovan Mitchell was getting playing time. He was getting high
he was
rep.
The perfect fit for them. They needed somebody to take shots.
Take shots. That's what I'm saying. You needed somebody to be aggressive. You needed somebody who can be that combo guy, and he was perfect. So I just say, when you think about Jalen Green, and I'm not saying he cannot fit, but is he willing to? Is he a defer player? Like, will he defer to Bay? Is he going to defer to Grant? Is he going to defer? Like, if I believe Killian's going to be a different type of player, is he going to defer to a little bit more offensive-based Killian that he can be settled in when you're only getting 12 shots a game? Will his 12 shots a game look the same as 15 shots a game? But we talking about rookies. But I'm not saying that when he gets into his second and third year, when he starts, his talent really starts to show and grow, and then he'd be like, his shots go from 12 shots, 10 shots a game to now 15 to 17 shots a game. So I believe in his talent. I always just think about fit and what I've seen before. All right, number 5,
Kuminga.
Okay.
Now, funny thing is, we had a conversation not that long ago. Grace, chill. We had a conversation about Kuminga, and there's 3 other people that I could see in that spot as well. Between Scotty Barnes and Jalen Johnson. Now Now think about Kuminga. He's 19 years old. Physically, his physical, his actual body, is NBA ready. This is you talking about a 6'8", 225-pound kid, and he's not like it's not like Sekou that we're talking about. We're talking about Chisel. He already has displayed his talent defensively, which is what I like. So it is what it is. Everything about him that's a question is going to be on the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
And it's one of those things where I understand if somebody doesn't like him because of that. And I understand why people do like him because of what they saw. Because, I think as the G League season went on, we started to see more and more what he could be. So with Kuminga, he's another one of those players where I hope he goes to the right team.
Right.
That can utilize his skills properly. I think the funny thing is, fit-wise, he would be perfect for Cleveland. But team-wise, I wouldn't want him to go there.
Yeah, I think fit-wise would be kind of crazy. Just depends. Like he'd probably have to play that power forward more than like a power forward. And I think he could get lost in some of that too.
Because they still got Caleb there. They still have I forgot my man name, light skin, Leaper.
Okoro?
No, not Okoro.
Oh,
my man's dad played it.
Nance.
They still have Nance there. Even though I don't really think that they're going to be there much longer. Caleb been trying to get out of there for about 2 years now. So, but I don't want to see him there, even though I think that his ability would fit them too. I'm curious to see how the draft order falls.
Yeah, it's going to. I mean, this is determined. This is our mock power draft. This is like based on their skill, talent, ability, not like where they're going to fall. Like, because it would all shift the way teams needs and everything. Like, so this is just kind of like our big board power draft.
His potential will be realized depending on where he goes.
Yeah,
if they got a good, developmental team and stuff like that, I think he's going to realize his potential. If they don't, he could be another Stanley Johnson. And
in theory, the best team for him would be the Minnesota Timberwolves, because that role he doesn't have to come in as a scorer. He wouldn't have to come in just scoring buckets. It would give him. He wouldn't even have the pressure of having to be a 15-point scorer all right off the bat.
And he's a defender that can go alongside.
He's a defender. He's a defender who can. Cat. We got someone in the group says. Jonathan Isaac, but tiny, bit smaller. It's what I think of Kuminga. Hopefully,
and the funny thing is, that's literally what was on my mind. Because I was looking at Orlando. I was like, well, they have Jonathan Isaac, even though he's coming off of an injury. That's kind of the same similar type of player that they would be. Kuminga is definitely stronger.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's going to have the injury issues that Isaac has right now. But I see exactly whoever made that comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the thing about Kuminga, I think, like I said, this is my more so coming alongside your picks and my feedback off of them. I like the athleticism of Kuminga. I can already tell, and I don't know if you heard him interview. I feel like there's going to be early. He's going to need a very patient coach. I feel like there's going to be a learning gap in language and playbooks and calling stuff out and the way he processed. I think sometimes when you're going to be a defensive guy, you have to be. That was Adam Cook who said that. And then we have my boy Mike. What's up, Piston Mike? But Adam Cook had made that comment about Jonathan. So that's spot on, Adam. Yep. I think that Kuminga is talented. I think Kuminga is gifted. This is not about lack of talent. Once again, my comments are not based on lack of talent.
His is the same as Cade Cunningham.
I think talent. Yeah, he's going to have to be a fit. And I think that once again, you get him on a team that has their core scorers, and he could come in and start battle for that fourth and third score role that takes a lot of responsibility off of him, and he can focus heavy on deep, almost like he's like Jeremy Grant. It's like if he could come in like a Jeremy Grant and be a hard, like the Denver version of him, like a hard 3D guy who have time to develop his game. I think he's going to be powerful. I think he's going to be good over time. Like I said, he would not be the guy I pick as my franchise guy, but he would be a guy I would pick to like come along something.
But he's one of those guys where if he ends up being the best player, it wouldn't shock me. Because he has all the physical tools.
OG made a huge leap this year, but it took him a couple of circumstances for him to get in that place. And that's how I think for Toronto, I think that he made a leap this year. I really did as a better offensive player. But I think it took playing behind Kawhi. I think it took people being injured. I think it took, a certain amount of shot volume.
And then he's gotten better. Too, Powell.
Yeah, Powell, so I think I think it takes time for certain guys. All right, so that's your number 5. Your number 6.
This is where it got weird for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's between Scotty Barnes and Jalen Johnson.
Okay.
Jalen Johnson is a really, really, really talented kid. He has a lot of. To tell you the truth, I remember I told you I was debating between Kuminga, Barnes, and Jalen Johnson. It was actually closer to Jalen Johnson that I was having a debate with because,
my last mock, I put them in my top 4.
He's a prototype. He has. I got a perimeter game. I got the big body. I can defend small forwards. I can defend power forwards. Some centers, and depending on the situation, he shows some glimpses of a perimeter game. He shot over 40% from the 3, but he didn't take many. Yeah, but it was one of those situations where the situation at Duke was like in flux a bit. So. We didn't get to really see.
And then he had the injury. He only played like 12, 13 games. So it's a small sample size. But yeah.
But he is one of those. He's another one of those kids where, like, if he ends up being the best player in the draft, you can see why. Because he has all the talent in the world. Is with him, people threw up red flags, but everything that was talked about, it was like questionable red flags. Like, somebody said something about, well, he's not the kind of kid that I draft, or, you don't spend that kind of draft capital on a player like him. And they try to say, he just left his team. I'm like, well, he didn't leave his team. That he made an educated decision with his family.
With his family.
And his coach.
And his team. He did it the right way. He didn't just buckle up and say, he made a decision.
I'm out. He did something like that. I'm like,
yeah.
But you talking about a kid that he took his opinion of his parents, his team, and his coach, everybody that mattered, and he made a decision.
He was going to be a one and done anyway. He was one of the top 10 players coming out of high school, or top 10, 15 players coming out of school. He had the size. He's everything the new NBA is looking for. He had an injury. You see guys come back with these lingering foot injuries that then plague them when they come to draft because they won't be able to work out at the combine. If we think about just lingering injuries and how it's hurt people's stock, you want to go to Michael Porter Jr., who I think I'm not saying he's as gifted as Michael Porter Jr., but I think he falls into that type of mold of a Michael Porter Jr.
I do think he's just the only difference between them two is probably the ball handling. Like
I think Michael Porter Jr. is a little bit more, but the
similarities are there.
Yeah, I would say similarities are there, and so he's a guy who would have, who had an injury, and if Michael Porter Jr. did not deal with that injury, he likely goes number 1 and top 3. It was literally injury that scared teams off from drafting them. So,
and it's the same thing with Simmons and Embiid, Blake. Yep. These are all players that had injuries that that put them out for the season or stuff like that. But they still went where they went.
And people think about that. So yeah, I am a fan of Jalen Suggs. In my last draft, I'm not saying he stayed there. Jalen Johnson, sorry. I'm not a fan of Jalen Suggs. I'm just joking. But
we got triple Jalen's.
Yeah, we got a lot of Jalen. We got Jalen Rose. Just a shout out to Jalen Rose's mom. But I just think about Johnson, and I just think about this. I think I had him in my top 4, top 5. I think I had him in my we think about talent, size, ability, athleticism, skill, the measurements. I think he is that guy. I think he's going to move up.
He's that player where if we, God forbid, fall to number 6, that's who we ended up with. I wouldn't be as disappointed.
I will be. I don't like the position. I don't like the position because the same thing I said about Kuminga. But if I had to pick between him and Kuminga, I'm taking him over Kuminga because I think that he can put another 10 pounds on, another 15 pounds on, and he can start to slide into that big, like I say, he can slide into that big, like I can slide over to that power forward center position.
And he's not done growing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, yeah, so, like if he ends up being 6'11", it would not be shocking. Like he's still young.
So we at number 7. This is gonna be our last pick of the day from my man. You didn't give me your word. What's your word for Jalen Suggs? What's your word?
The same. Jalen Johnson has actually.
Yeah, I keep saying Jalen Suggs. Jalen Johnson.
Jalen Johnson has the same thing to me with Cade and Kuminga. That's realized potential.
Okay.
Realized potential. Like, can you peak out?
All right. So we're gonna go number 7.
I went with Scotty Barnes.
Okay.
Only because, man, you got Jalen Green, you got Keon Johnson, you got Kispert, you got Moody, you got Book Knight. Like, it's a lot of wings here. But those prototypical forwards, there's a couple, but it's not like it's gonna be all up and through the league, all up and through the draft. So I went with Scotty. The versatility in this game, man. Like the kid can do everything you need him to do except shoot the 3 ball. Yeah, that's his only hole. He's passionate, which is another thing that you want to see out of a player, especially at that point. Like when the questions about your game, like you might have a couple holes in your game, you can make up for it with the intangibles, and that's what I would look for personally. If I was a GM.
Okay.
So that drive to want to be better than what you are, that's what I'm going to be looking for at that point.
Okay.
I like him because if we need him to bring the ball up to initiate the offense, he could. If you need him to go into the post, he can. His shot's a little funky. But I don't think it's one of those, make or break. Look, I was a Tyrese Halliburton fan, so everybody that was talking about form and shot, and I'm like, bro, I don't think it's as big a deal as it is. So I have to, I got to apply that to other players as well. But yeah, Scotty Barnes, he is a versatility from the 3 all the way up to small ball center that you kind of want in the league right now. Do I think he could play up front with Grant and Stewart? Yeah, I do. I think he can. It might tighten the lanes a little bit because he's not able to stretch the floor yet. But what he does offer is the ability to create offense with his dribble drive, especially if you're playing him against another center or a slow-footed power forward or something like that. So that's why I had Scotty there.
Yeah. So, my only reason, here's what I would do, and I'm just downgrading Kuminga based on other people's talent. The reason I would put him over Kuminga is because of his ball handling. His ball handling skills is way stronger than Kuminga. And I believe right now,
7.
Huh?
So I mean, no. 7.
If I was picking, like Kuminga already fell out of my 7. He's down some.
Outside of 7.
Yeah, I know he would go higher. Hold on. So I want to be clear. I don't want to jump off of Scotty Barnes. I know Kuminga will go higher. Just like I know he will go higher. I'm just saying, if I was measuring talent and ability and youth and age and where people are at, I would lean him out of my top 7 only because I think guys are a little bit better fit for teams. I like Scotty Barnes. I believe he's a better ball handler than Kuminga. I believe right now he could come in the league. He reminds me of Isaac Okoro. He's going to come in the league and he can defend. I've seen Isaac Okoro defend 1 through 4. I believe he could come in your league right now in your start lineup, defend 1 through 4. So in my mind, when I think about him as a Piston, I see him as you could put him as a defensive shooting guard, almost like we had with Josh Jackson. And then once again, and he can ball handle and he can create for other people. So I see him as a guy who would not be a liability. Yeah, I see him as that. So where Kuminga, I think Kuminga's going to have a learning curve for defense. I think he's going to have a learning curve for offense. I think he'll have but his upside may be there. but I feel like they're around each other. So that's my only knock on Scotty Barnes is
defensively. I don't agree with you there, but I do on offensively.
Yeah,
I definitely agree.
Only because I've seen some stuff and I don't want to jump on Kuminga, but I've seen some stuff and he is a foot slow. He's sometimes he's not reading things, and I think that's the curve. And I think in G League, and this is my G League knock. G League is very fast paced. It's up tempo. It's a lot of man to man, and I feel like in the NBA it's man to man, but it's like they're smarter, and I feel like he will get in foul trouble in the NBA. I feel like you will foul trouble G League, you'll get in foul trouble in the NBA, and I feel like those things stunt growth for young guys early, especially wing guys. So I feel like Barnes would just be a little bit better there, but. Upside, if Kuminga puts it all together, I will put him like long-term upside. So you say who has a bigger upside? I'm leaning Kuminga. But if you just say right now coming in for the first couple of years, who I think would be better, most productive in the first 2-3 years, I would probably say Scotty Barnes based off that. But your top 7 is not bad. So what's your word for Scotty Barnes?
Perimeter shooting. That's what's going to dictate how good he can actually be. If he ends up being a 35% three-point shooter, they would take 4 to 5 attempts a game. He's won.
Yeah,
and
I think I really think he can get that, man. I like him. I like other guys better than him offensively, but I don't think I like other guys better than him.
He reminds me of Kyle Anderson, more athletic though. That's what he reminds me of. Kyle Anderson is a really good passer. I don't know if you watched him much, but that's what I like about Scotty too. Like he has all the tools that you would need out of somebody that you want as a Swiss Army knife.
That's what's up.
Yeah, if he can knock down a 3.
All right, so we're gonna run this back. This is Reginald's top 7. This is top 7. He got Cade number 1. He got Jalen Suggs number 2. He got Mobley number 3. He has Green number 4. He has
qualified 2-way players at the top of my.
Okay, qualified. He's got the 2-way players. Got Kuminga number 5. Got Jalen Johnson number 6, and then we ended off his number 7 with Scotty Barnes. So we appreciate you coming through, man. Appreciate you dropping some jewels on us, man. Guys, if you're interested, I would love to get you on here to hear your top 7 or your top 7. So any of you guys want to come in and share your top 7, why they're your top 7, and then we're gonna go deep dive a little bit later when we go like an 8 through 14. So let's make sure we talk about it. I appreciate you guys. This is the narrative, man. This is the narrative Talkback. This is your boy Elder. This is my man Reggie, and we're just gonna keep it going, man. We're gonna try to do these more often, do these with different Pitster fans, these one-on-one, just to hear different perspectives about their top 7 mock draft. So this is our mock 1.0. We're gonna get these done, and then next month we're gonna bump it up to mock 2.0 because it's gonna have the combine coming in June, and they're gonna have more. You're gonna see a lot more people jumping up and jumping down up the slide. So let's keep it going.
We're gonna have the actual lottery coming up too. So
we're going live for the lottery. We're gonna be
live for the lottery.
We're going live for the lottery. We're gonna go live for that. But all right, fellas, salute. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining in and check us out, man. Narrative Talkback.